Some children were forced to grow up fast. They were born into families where the person who was supposed to carry the weight of the family put it down. And since someone had to carry that weight, the child picked it up. So they assumed the role of the parents. They cooked, they cleaned, they managed the house, they made sure everything kept working as it should be. They took care of their younger siblings, got them ready for school. They even got a job to pay the bills, and they grew strong because they were not allowed to break. Breaking or stopping would result in the entire house coming to a standstill, grinding to a halt, and they felt the weight of responsibility hanging on their shoulders, both for themselves and for their younger siblings. Some other children came home to a parent that was no longer there, just gone, no explanations given. And whenever they asked why, the answers they were giving were not making much sense to them. They were probably hugged and told that they will be all right and it will be fine and everything will be okay. But nobody sat them down to properly explain to them what it means for their parents to leave, what they should conclude by that, how it relates to them, and how they should make sense of that entire situation. So they had to learn to live with the parents' absence, and they had to resolve the questions that they had in their minds. Somehow they came to conclusions of their own, since no one put the situation into the right perspective for them. Then there is a child who grew up in a house where the parents was present, but they were almost never sober. They were almost never themselves. So from a young age, the child learns how to take care of the parents instead of it being the other way around. They check if the parent is still breathing, check if everything is all right with them, make sure they are not doing something that will hurt themselves. And then they also learn how to call for help, call for the paramedics when the parent begins to overdose. And they had to watch in panic, wondering and not knowing if that parent was going to make it. Then they had to painfully watch as that same parents, who by God's mercy made it past that situation, went straight back to the same substance, to the same alcohol, to the same thing that almost took their life in the first place. They had to watch all that. They had to deal with all that pain. They had to deal with all that frustration. They had to live with that crushed hope, and they had to put that thing in a place somewhere inside of them. They also had to deal with the stigma of what their parents did when they were not sober, what their mother or their father did to people in the neighborhood. Conversations that came up, and giggles and laughters and chuckles that was meant to act as a joke, using the unfortunate situations that their parents were in and the embarrassments that their parents got themselves into. The child had to deal with all that, acting like all was fine when all was obviously not well. This situation, and situations even more terrible than this, more tragic than this, is the reality of many children today, and was the reality of many adults when they were little, when they were much younger. Abandonment is a parent passing a message to their child, using their presence or their absence, a message that says you are not wanted or you were not worth staying for. That child has to live in the reality of that message every day. They do it when someone asks them a question like, why is your mom acting like that? Or why is your dad acting like that? Or when they go to school and see other children that have both parents while they have none, or while they have just one. Or when the parent that is in the house but is incapacitated needs their help just to stay alive, not to hurt themselves. And every time they have to deal with that reality, it breaks the child even further. It constitutes even more damage to the child's soul. And the child is being guided towards an understanding, a wrong understanding. We talked about this in the previous episode. A wrong understanding of what is actually going on by beings, entities, demonic entities that are both responsible for the addiction of their parents and responsible for the state of the house. They also come to the child to guide the child towards an understanding of what is going on in the house and what is going on with their parents. Obviously, a child around this age doesn't really have a framework or a concept of what is going on with their parents. They come to conclusions of their own. Another thing that the child doesn't know is that the house where they grew up in was engineered. It's not a function of random events occurring or just how life happens. It's not just life. The house that they grew up in, the broken state of their family, that broken family system was engineered, whether by the parents' physical departure or by the parents' addiction or by the parents handing them out, giving them over to strangers or to relatives, or by whatever means. It was engineered by Satan. It's not a coincidence what happened in that family. It was deliberately engineered over time. There are principalities that are assigned to families. You can see this by the effect that they produce in those specific families. So whichever prince is assigned to that family, that child's family, works through the parents to get the child. You cannot get the child if you do not first get the parent. You have to break the parent before you break the child. So as we established in our previous episodes, 2 episodes ago, the principality breaks the parent through whatever means that they can: rage, addiction, convincing the parent to leave, or however they want to do that. They break the parent, and through that they get the child, and through the child they get every generation that comes after the child, because it's a self-perpetuating system. If you succeed in breaking the parent will break the child, and the child will break the child that they have after that. So that is the summary of the entire agenda. It's not an accident whether the parent's addiction or the rage or the anger or the bitterness or the abuse, sexual molestation, assault is engineered. That is what I want you to understand. It is absolutely engineered, it's absolutely intentional. It's not the brokenness of a system or a person or the is engineered, and it targets the child. The child who was abandoned tries to search for the image of the person who left in other people, sometimes in a friend, sometimes in a partner, a marriage partner, and sometimes they try to shape that partner into the image of the person who left, which fails because that person is not the one who left. And this outcome fractures the marriage or breaks it entirely when that person, that marriage partner, whether the wife or the husband, fails to become the person who left because they were never that person in the first place. The child whose parent was in addiction, whether substance addiction or alcohol addiction, learns that authority is unreliable. Authority is volatile because of the kind of house they grew up in. When the one person who should be constant, predictable, and reliable becomes inconsistent and unreliable, they also learn that the place that should have been the safest for them, which is their home, is the most unpredictable, is the most dangerous. So they stay in a constant state of stress. They are always scanning, always vigilant, constantly looking for signs of danger, constantly scanning through the faces. This is when they have become adults, constantly scanning through the faces of other people, looking for when it's safe or when it's not safe, when emotion changes or not, because they learned that when they were home. They were always scanning for what version of their parent will walk through the door, whether it's the angry and dangerous version or the sober one, which almost never comes anyway. But they are always hyper vigilant, and it follows them for the rest of their life. Some of them became their parents' keeper, trying to help their parents get better, living through the trauma of watching their parents almost overdose, watching the paramedics come, and hoping that the parent will learn something from the episode that just happened and never go back to the bottle again and never go back to the drug again, only to have their hopes crushed over and over again when the same parent helplessly goes back to the same thing that almost killed them, because it's a stronghold, it's a force, it's a power, it's a bondage. It's the same principality, it's the same demonic entities, it's the same demons working in their parents to bind them to that addiction that is working in the child to break them as a result of their parents' addiction. Most times their parents are helpless to do anything about it. Most times the parents have given up. But the child has to go through the same process of having their hopes crushed over and over again, and it builds helplessness into the child. It builds anger, it builds regret, it builds different negative emotions that leave open doors for these demonic entities to access the child's life. Then there are children that have to live with the stigma or the shame of what their parents did when they were not sober, when their parents assaulted someone or attacked someone that resulted in an injury or imprisonment or a loss of life, either for the parent or for the person. They had to live through that stigma, they had to live through that pain, and all this does something in the child. They are not things that you experience and you come out unscathed. You don't come out unscathed from these things. Most people ignore what they do in them, not knowing that all these things constitute the chips and the fractures and the wounds in their soul that manifest as things that sometimes look entirely unrelatable to what happened in the first place, but they are very much related. Then there are the children that were given away because the parents looked at the child and for some reason felt that they couldn't keep the child. So they gave them away to the foster care system, they gave them away to strangers, or they gave them away to grandparents. These children live with a kind of pain that you really cannot describe, because in contrast to the ones whose parents were in addiction or whose parents passed away, unfortunately, these ones were deliberately given away. And these children were almost never told why that happened. So They, of course, have to come to conclusions of their own, trying to resolve it somehow. Most times, those conclusions never come. They never really come to any resolution of what happened. They just have to live with the pain. They just have to live with the feeling, trying to act like everything is all right. But that's the thing with soul wounds. It's never all right. You are never just okay. It's never something you ignore. It shapes your life. It governs your life in ways you are not aware that they are doing, until somehow you receive mercy from God and gain an understanding of how this seemingly unrelated behavior that you don't know why it happens relates to how you were abandoned as a child. Because one of the things which comes when a parent gives their child away, either to the foster care system or to their parents or to their grandparents, or when the parent is in jail, is that the child develops a fractured sense of identity. The one who is supposed to give the child an identity, which is their parents, father and mother, as it was originally designed, they are absent. So the child tries to glean their identity from outsiders. They don't know who they are. So they come up with philosophies like you have to discover who you are. And those same entities, those same demonic entities that orchestrated the absence of their parents or that orchestrated the abandonment of the child, come to the child, as we have seen before, and they guide the child towards a false identity that pushes the child as far away from God as possible, as far away from their original identity as possible. They can come to whichever conclusion that they want. They can be whoever they want to be, as long as they are not who God designed them to be. Because these entities know that whoever you choose to be that is not who you were designed to be, we end up in lack of fulfillment. And you will spend a good amount of the time that you should have spent actually fulfilling your assignment, trying to discover who you were meant to be. When a parent leaves their child or abandons their child, whether physically or emotionally, it leaves a gap in the soul of the child. When the child tries to fill that gap themselves, it steers them towards the wrong people, towards the wrong places, towards the wrong groups, towards the groups that say we are your family now, towards the older woman or the older man that shows them some kind of attention that their mother or their father never gave them, towards the person that shows them respect, that acts as their big brother, that acts as their covering. It's all the child trying to fill a gap in their soul, whether they know it or not. It steers them. And this also works in the favor of the beings who orchestrated the situations that led to that gap. They place assets, if you will. They place people around the child. They place the child in an environment that ensures that whichever option the child goes for to try to fill that gap, it will never be the right one. Because they go to broken people trying to get healing, and a broken person cannot heal you. A broken person will give you advice. They will try to help you out of the place of their wounds, out of the place of their brokenness. They will only model to you what they have received, and what they received was not the right model, was not the godly model. So whichever option this child chooses, it only serves to drive them as far away from God, as we have said before, as possible, and break the child even further. In the next episode, we will go into what all these produce in a person, how it actually affects their adult life, and what to do to come out of it. Subscribe if you intend to follow this through, and I'll see you in the next episode.